I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich.
Can you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow.
We're back with the big deal. I'm Errol Louis. When he takes office, President-elect Donald Trump has promised to sign executive orders that will impose new taxes, also called tariffs, on all imported goods from Mexico, China, and Canada, our nation's three largest trading partners. But some economists say that companies who import goods could pass along those costs to consumers. Donald Trump has pledged a 25% tariff on all goods imported from Mexico and Canada if they don't stem the flow of migrants and drugs crossing the border. And Donald Trump has threatened to implement an additional 10% tariff on all Chinese goods if that country does not crack down on fentanyl production. On NBC's Meet the Press this week, Donald Trump was asked about the effect his plan could have on American consumers. Here's what he had to say.
I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich.
Can you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow.
Joining me now to talk more about the economic impact of tariffs is Mary Lovely, a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. And Mary Lovely, let me ask you, the president-elect says that he does not believe economists who are predicting that added costs on imported goods would lead to higher prices for American consumers. But doesn't that always happen when a tariff is implemented? Walk us through some of the items we should expect to see go up in price.
So first of all, it definitely is something we saw in the first trade war under the first Trump administration. You know, careful analysis of what we pay at the border showed that 100% of those tariffs were passed forward, meaning that it was U.S. importer who bought it. Companies then decided how much of that to pass through to consumers. So this time around, we will expect to see increases. First of all, of course, autos, so important to the Canada-Mexico-U.S. relationship. Some automobiles pass through borders more than 7 times in the course of production. So it's not even clear how we would administer those tariffs. When we look at China, we're looking not only at a lot of things that our companies use to stay competitive, but also a lot of things that we see in the stores, things like toys, footwear, home goods. All those would see price increases.
So now, what happens on the question of exemptions? My understanding is that during that first Trump administration, lots of companies hired lobbyists and then asked for an exemption from this or that tariff, and that this happened not once, not dozens of times, but tens of thousands of times.
Yeah, I think they're going to see, if they allow exemptions, and exemptions were really pared back under the Biden administration. So if Trump administration opens that door, they're going to be swamped with requests for exemptions because U.S. companies, and it's mostly companies who get these exemptions, they have to argue that it would really reduce their competitiveness, make a business case to receive that ability to avoid the tariff. So yeah, they're going to be swamped with exemptions. And of course, that opens the door to thinking about who can afford lobbyists. What about small businesses? What about medium, family-owned enterprises? Are they going to be able to participate in this as well as the big companies?
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to bring that up. Donald Trump's tariffs could also affect American businesses that don't really import goods. I want to play a soundbite from an interview that our North Carolina station did with a local furniture store about why he worries about tariffs. Let's listen to that.
If we're spending our money on, higher money on food and groceries, we may not buy a leather sofa or a new sectional. So even though my prices may not be as affected as much, my customer's ability to spend money with me might be.
So it's important to note that consumers are going to have even less in their pockets to spend on things like new furniture. If they're going to have a price squeeze all around like that, once again, should we just expect there to be inflation, for lack of a better word?
Well, a lot of people in the Trump sphere argue that it's a one-time price increase, that, if we put a 60% tariff, for example, on China, those prices will go up. and that's not inflation. But that's not how it's going to feel to the consumer. What the consumer is going to see is this week, the price of vegetables coming from Mexico is more expensive. Next week, it's going to be increases in the price of washing machines or room air conditioners. And that's going to feel a lot like inflation. And just coming off a period where we had high inflation, we could see inflation reignited by this increase in prices caused by the tariffs. So we very well could see an inflationary bout being spurred by this increase in tariffs.
Okay, and of course, there's always the threat of a trade war. This week, the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, spoke about the tariffs plan. Let's listen to that.
President-elect Trump got elected on a commitment to make life better and more affordable for Americans. And I think people south of the border are beginning to wake up to the reality that tariffs on everything from Canada would make life a lot more expensive. We will, of course, as we did 8 years ago, respond.
So is he referring there to retaliatory tariffs against the U.S.? And, frankly, you could throw China in that same basket. I assume that they would probably feel exactly the same way.
Well, as we saw during the U.S.-China trade war that started in 2017, countries do respond to U.S. actions. So how exactly they will respond, we don't know. It is the Prime Minister of Canada there hinting that they will retaliate with perhaps tariffs. This is actually sad news for U.S. exporters. The United States is the second largest manufactured good exporter in the world. We're an exporting superpower. And these companies create, thousands of jobs in the United States. They're not only going to be burdened by the higher input costs, the things that they buy to produce in America are going to be higher priced, but they're also going to see reduced access to foreign markets. What we saw during the first trade war was that China dropped its tariffs on everybody else while raising it against the United States. So a double whammy for U.S. exporters.
So now, I guess in our last minute, there is a scenario where none of these tariffs actually get implemented, right? They're a negotiating tactic, is what the president-elect has said, to get those countries to make different changes, sometimes on policies that have nothing to do with trade. What do you make of that?
Well, this is a technique that President Trump thinks works for him, and it may have he may have some ability to make threats against foreign countries to get them to do what we want. But I think this time countries are ready for the onslaught from President Trump and are getting ready to retaliate. We've seen it in statement after statement from foreign governments. So I expect that we will see retaliation. It also really alienates the United States from our friends and allies because, of course, President Trump has said that he's going to put a blanket tariff, 10 to 20% on imports from all countries. So that's France, Germany, the United Kingdom. And these countries are going to say, hey, this violates what we think of as the rules-based trade system. You can't do that. We have to respond.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mary Lovely. Great talking with you. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.